My wife's family made me take out a second mortgage to pay for her sister's wedding, and now they want me to sell our house because she's getting divorced so she can start over, but I told them I had had enough and now I'm being called the bad guy. I, 37M, never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this off my chest. My hands are literally shaking as I type this, and I've rewritten this opening paragraph at least 5 times. It's still hard to believe how my life has completely unraveled in the span of a few months. 6 years ago, I made what I thought was a loving gesture for my wife's family, and now it's coming back to haunt me in ways I never imagined. I met my wife Sarah, 35F, in college during our junior year. She was the teaching assistant in my advanced calculus class, and I was immediately drawn to her intelligence and warm smile. We started dating after she helped me through a particularly difficult midterm, and those study sessions turned into coffee dates, then dinner dates, and before we knew it, we were inseparable. We dated for 4 years before getting married in a modest ceremony. Ironically, we wanted to save money for our future. I thought I knew everything about Sarah and her family. Her father, a high school principal, always seemed reasonable and level-headed. Her mother, a real estate agent, was always welcoming and treated me like a son. And then there was Emma, 29F, Sarah's younger sister by 6 years. Emma was sweet but noticeably spoiled. She was the baby of the family, and her parents had a habit of moving heaven and earth to make her happy. Still, I never saw it as a red flag. Every family has their dynamics, right? Sarah and I both worked incredibly hard to build our life together. I put in countless hours as a systems engineer at a leading tech company, often taking on additional projects and overtime to boost our savings. Sarah dedicated herself to her career as a high school mathematics teacher, spending evenings grading papers and weekends preparing lessons. We lived frugally, packed lunches, drove used cars, and put every spare dollar into savings. After 5 years of disciplined saving and careful planning, we finally had enough for a down payment on a modest 3-bedroom house in a good school district. It wasn't anything fancy, no granite countertops or walk-in closets, but it was ours. We had plans to renovate it slowly over time, and we'd already started trying for a baby. We had everything mapped out. Sarah would take a year of maternity leave, we'd convert the small bedroom into a nursery, and my parents had already offered to help with childcare. Everything was falling perfectly into place. Everything changed when Emma got engaged to her college sweetheart, James. The wedding planning started normally enough. Emma bought some bridal magazines, started a wedding Pinterest board, and did all the usual things excited brides do. But looking back, I should have seen the red flags. She hired and fired 3 different wedding planners because they didn't understand her vision. She made her bridesmaids cry during dress fittings because they didn't look perfect enough. She even demanded that Sarah dye her hair a different color because she didn't want to be upstaged in the photos. Things quickly spiraled out of control, with costs mounting daily and Emma's demands becoming increasingly outrageous. Emma wanted a destination wedding in Italy, specifically a 15th-century villa in Tuscany that she'd seen on Pinterest. She had everything planned down to the smallest detail, the hand-painted invitations, €200 each, the Michelin-starred catering, the vintage Rolls-Royce for transportation, even a famous local opera singer for the ceremony. The cost was astronomical, but Emma insisted this was her vision. Her parents couldn't afford it on their own. My father-in-law had recently taken early retirement due to health issues, and my mother-in-law's real estate business was going through a slow period. James's family, while loving and supportive, were modest small business owners who had already stretched themselves thin offering to pay for the rehearsal dinner. I remember the exact moment the pressure started. We were having our usual Sunday dinner at my in-laws' house. Emma was showing everyone her wedding Pinterest board on the big TV, gushing about the villa and the flowers and the designer dress she'd fallen in love with. Then she started crying, saying she'd have to settle for a local wedding that would ruin her perfect vision. That's when my mother-in-law first gave Sarah that look, the one I'd come to recognize as the signal that our bank account was about to take a hit. At first, it was subtle hints from my mother-in-law about how family helps family. Then came the tearful phone calls from Emma about her dream wedding. Sarah started becoming distant, spending hours on the phone with her sister and parents. Finally, one night, Sarah sat me down and asked if we could help with a wedding. I was hesitant, but Sarah insisted this was Emma's once-in-a-lifetime event. She suggested we could take out a second mortgage on our house. The numbers were staggering, $75,000 for the wedding. I tried to reason with her, suggesting a more modest celebration, but she wouldn't hear it. Emma has always dreamed of a fairy tale wedding, she said. We can afford it, and family should help family. The pressure campaign lasted weeks. Emma would call Sarah at all hours, sobbing about how her friends were already judging her for possibly having a basic wedding. My mother-in-law started sending us listings of bigger houses we could buy after selling ours, suggesting we were too comfortable and needed to think about the whole family's happiness. Even my father-in-law, usually the voice of reason, pulled me aside at a family gathering and gave me a long speech about how he'd sacrificed everything for his daughters and how real men step up for family. The final straw came during a family dinner where Emma announced she'd put down a non-refundable deposit on the villa using her credit card, believing we would do the right thing. She'd maxed out her card and would face massive interest charges if we didn't help. Sarah was furious with me for forcing her sister into this desperate move. After another sleepless night of arguments and tears, I gave in. The night I agreed, Sarah hugged me tight and told me I was the best husband in the world. Emma screamed with joy over FaceTime, and my mother-in-law kept saying how proud she was to have me as a son-in-law. I remember feeling uneasy even as they celebrated, but I pushed those feelings down. After all, family helps family, right? I convinced myself it was an investment in family harmony. We took out the second mortgage, and Emma got her dream wedding in Tuscany. Everyone praised us for our generosity, and for a while, things seemed okay. We tightened our belts, put our own plans for children on hold, and focused on paying down the debt. Fast forward to last month. Emma calls Sarah in tears. She and James are getting divorced. Apparently, he'd been having an affair with his secretary for the past year. Sarah was devastated for her sister, but what came next shocked me to my core. Yesterday, my in-laws called a family meeting. They explained that Emma was struggling emotionally and financially, and she needed a fresh start. Their solution? They want us to sell our house, use the equity to pay off the remaining mortgage, including the second one we took for the wedding, and give the rest to Emma so she can start over. I thought they were joking at first, but they were dead serious. My mother-in-law actually said, "Emma needs this more than you do right now. You're established, you can always buy another house." When I pointed out that we'd be the ones taking a massive financial hit, she dismissed it with, "That's what family does for each other." The worst part? Sarah agrees with them. She thinks we should make this sacrifice for her sister. When I refused, she accused me of being selfish and not understanding family loyalty. She's been staying at her parents' house for the past 3 days, not answering my calls. I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I really the selfish one here? We already put our lives on hold once for Emma's dream wedding that ended in divorce. Now they want us to uproot our entire lives because she needs a fresh start? I love my wife, but I can't help feeling like I'm just a walking ATM to her family. Update 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming response. I need to provide some additional context and update you on what's happened in the past week. First, some clarification on Emma's situation. She signed a prenup, James's family insisted, but it only covered his premarital assets. She's getting nothing from the divorce except her personal belongings and her car. She's been a stay-at-home wife for the past 6 years, focused on building her lifestyle brand on Instagram, which never really took off. After my last post, I decided to take everyone's advice and check our finances in detail. What I discovered made my blood run cold. Sarah has been sending money to Emma, thousands of dollars over the past few months, taken from our joint account. When I confronted Sarah about this, she broke down and admitted she'd been helping Emma prepare for the divorce even before it was officially announced. I immediately separated our finances and froze the joint account. This led to a massive argument where Sarah accused me of financially abusing her by controlling the money. I reminded her that I wasn't the one secretly sending thousands to a sibling behind my spouse's back. I also discovered something else disturbing. Emma's dream wedding in Italy? The $75,000 we borrowed wasn't even the full amount. Sarah had been drawing from our savings before that, about $30,000, which she'd told me was for wedding preparations. So in total, we spent over $100,000 on a wedding that ended in divorce after 6 years. Update 2. Things have escalated quickly. After I froze the joint account, my in-laws showed up at our house unannounced. My father-in-law tried to intimidate me, saying I was destroying the family and that a real man would do whatever it takes to help family. I recorded the entire conversation on my phone, just in case. They revealed their real plan. They want us to sell the house, give Emma enough money to buy her own place outright. They were eyeing properties in the $400,000 range, and then we could start fresh by moving into a smaller house or renting. When I pointed out this would destroy our financial future, my mother-in-law actually said, "You're good with money, you'll figure it out. Emma needs this more than you do." I've consulted with a lawyer, who advised me to document everything. The house is in both our names, so Sarah can't force a sale without my agreement. However, my lawyer warned me that if Sarah files for divorce, the house situation could get complicated. He explained that while the unauthorized transfers to Emma would work in my favor, the original second mortgage for the wedding could be considered a mutual decision since I agreed to it. He also warned me that Sarah's family's aggressive attitude suggested they might try to drag the proceedings out to force a sale through financial attrition. "They're hoping you'll run out of money for legal fees and just give in," he explained. "It's a common tactic in high-conflict divorces." He advised me to start documenting every interaction with Sarah's family and to install security cameras at the house, given my father-in-law's threatening behavior. He also suggested I start gathering character witnesses, friends, colleagues, neighbors, who could testify about my financial responsibility and Sarah's family's pattern of manipulation. Sarah ambushed me after work one day, sitting in our living room with Emma and their parents. She had printouts of house listings, all significantly smaller and in worse neighborhoods than our current home. She'd already contacted a realtor about listing our house, assuming I'd agree. When I expressed my shock at her presumption, she gave me an ultimatum: either agree to sell the house and help Emma, or she'll file for divorce. The way she delivered this ultimatum was what hurt the most. There was no emotion in her voice, no recognition of our shared dreams for this home. She spoke like she was discussing a business transaction, not the destruction of our marriage and future. When I reminded her that this was the house where we'd planned to raise our children, she actually rolled her eyes and said, "Emma needs it more than our hypothetical kids." That moment, more than any other, showed me how completely her family had warped her priorities. She truly believes I'm being unreasonable and that family obligations should come before everything else. Update 3. I've made my decision. After meeting with my lawyer again and going through all our financials, I filed for divorce yesterday. Sarah was served papers at her parents' house this morning. The look of shock on her face when she was served tells me she never thought I'd actually do it. According to my neighbor, who who witnessed the scene. Sarah actually dropped the papers and stood there in disbelief for several minutes before her mother came out to see what was wrong. I hate that it had to come to this, but I refuse to be financially and emotionally manipulated any longer. Later that evening, I received a barrage of angry texts from Emma, calling me every name in the book and blaming me for destroying her sister's marriage. The irony of her, a soon-to-be divorcee, lecturing me about marriage wasn't lost on me. My father-in-law left a threatening voicemail about how I'd regret this decision and that they'd make sure I pay for what I've done to their daughters. She really believes she could pressure me into giving up everything we've built together for her sister's fresh start. My lawyer helped me document all the unauthorized transfers to Emma, which will be crucial in the divorce proceedings. We're also arguing that the second mortgage for Emma's wedding should be considered a gift to her family, not a marital debt. I'm staying in the house for now, on my lawyer's advice. Sarah continues to stay with her parents, and Emma has apparently moved in there too. The emotional manipulation has reached new heights. They're now using mutual friends and family members to guilt me, saying I'm tearing the family apart and that real family would never do this. Sarah's cousins have been leaving nasty comments on my social media. Her aunt, who works at my company, has been spreading rumors about me at work. Emma even contacted my mother, trying to get her to talk sense into me, a move that backfired spectacularly when my mom told her off for being entitled and selfish. The most disturbing incident happened last weekend. I came home to find Sarah and Emma in our house. Sarah still has a key, going through our financial documents. They had accessed my home office and were photographing statements and tax returns. When I confronted them, Emma actually said they were gathering evidence of my financial abuse. They only left when I threatened to call the police. I've since changed the locks and installed security cameras, on my lawyer's advice. But I refuse to set myself on fire to keep Emma warm. I worked too hard to build this life, and I won't let it be destroyed because of someone else's failed marriage. To those who might find themselves in a similar situation, love shouldn't mean sacrificing your financial security and self-respect. Family loyalty is important, but it should go both ways. If your spouse's family sees you as nothing more than a source of money, it's time to reevaluate everything. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in weeks, I feel like I can breathe. Yesterday, I was going through our spare room, the one that was supposed to be a nursery, and found the baby planning book Sarah and I had started. Looking at our excited notes about color schemes and crib designs, I broke down and cried. Not just for the end of my marriage, but for the future that was stolen from us by endless demands from her family. My own parents have been incredibly supportive through all this. They've offered to let me stay with them if needed, but I'm determined to keep the house. It's not just about the money anymore, it's about standing up for myself and my future. My mom said something that really hit home. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who see your love as a weakness to exploit. Yes, my marriage is ending, and that hurts more than I can express. But I refuse to spend the rest of my life being an ATM for my wife's family while my own dreams and goals are dismissed as unimportant. Final update, 2 weeks later. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, though not without drama. Sarah's family has hired an aggressive lawyer, one of the most expensive in town, which makes me wonder how they can afford his fees when they supposedly needed my house to help Emma. Their lawyer is trying to claim that I abandoned the marriage by refusing to help family in need, and is attempting to paint me as controlling and financially abusive. They're even trying to use my decision to freeze the joint account against me. My lawyer says their case is weak, especially given the documented financial transfers to Emma without my consent. We've also gathered evidence of the pattern of financial manipulation, including text messages where my mother-in-law explicitly discusses their plan to pressure me into selling the house. The unauthorized entry to my home office and attempted theft of financial documents has also strengthened our case considerably. What's been particularly eye-opening is how this situation has revealed people's true colors. Some friends I thought would stand by me have sided with Sarah, buying into her family's narrative about my selfishness. But others have shown incredible support. My boss, after hearing about Sarah's aunt spreading rumors, issued a company-wide memo about workplace harassment and had a stern talk with her. My neighbors have provided written statements about Sarah and Emma entering the house without permission and about the general pattern of harassment from her family. Looking back, I can now see how Emma's wedding was just the beginning of a pattern. Even during the wedding planning, there were red flags I chose to ignore. The way Emma would casually add expensive items to the wedding budget without consultation, expecting us to cover it. How she'd guilt-trip Sarah by saying things like "I'd do this for you" if the roles were reversed. The way my mother-in-law would praise other men in the family who stepped up financially, while giving me pointed looks. The wedding itself was a display of excess that made me uncomfortable even then. The wedding guest list kept growing, eventually reaching 150 people. Emma insisted on covering premium accommodation packages for the wedding party and close family, something not included in the original budget. She obsessed over every detail, from the exact shade of the table linens to the specific vintage of champagne being served. The week before the wedding, she had a meltdown about her dress not being unique enough after seeing a similar one on Instagram. Sarah sided with her, and we ended up having to rush order a different designer dress, adding another 12,000 euros to our already maxed out credit cards. I remember standing there during the ceremony, watching Emma make her grand entrance in a dress that cost more than my first car, while Sarah wiped away tears of joy. All I could think about was the mortgage payment that had just hit our account that morning, and how we'd had to dip into our fertility treatment savings to cover it. But I pushed those thoughts aside, telling myself it was worth it for family harmony. What a fool I was. Yesterday, I received an unexpected visit from James, Emma's soon-to-be ex-husband. He wanted to apologize for his part in the wedding expenses and shared some interesting insights into their marriage. According to him, Emma's spending habits and her family's interference were major factors in their divorce, not just his infidelity, which he also apologized for. He revealed that Emma had maxed out multiple credit cards and taken loans from predatory lenders to maintain her Instagram lifestyle, all while refusing to work because it would damage her brand. James also confirmed something I'd long suspected: Emma's social media influencer career wasn't just failing, it was a complete fabrication. Most of her followers were bought, her engagement was fake, and the brand deals she claimed to have were actually just her buying products and pretending to be sponsored by the companies. She'd been living in a fantasy world, funded by her parents' retirement savings and, indirectly, by Sarah and me. I should have spoken up during the wedding planning, he said, but I was young and stupid and thought love would be enough. By the time I realized how toxic the family dynamics were, I was trapped. The affair was wrong, but it was my way of escaping. I'm not proud of it, but I understand now why you're standing your ground. Don't let them guilt you into ruining your life like they ruined mine. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, pay attention to how your partner's family treats you when money is involved. Watch how they handle financial boundaries. And most importantly, remember that marriage should be about building a future together, not funding someone else's fairy tale dreams or fixing their mistakes. As one commenter said, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I wish I'd learned that lesson before taking out that second mortgage 6 years ago. But at least I learned it before selling my house and destroying my future for someone who sees me as nothing more than a walking ATM. For those wondering about what's next for me, I'm keeping the house, focusing on my career, and starting therapy next week. My lawyer is confident about the divorce proceedings, especially with all the documented financial evidence. I've also started reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. Funny how you don't realize how isolated you've become until you start reaching out again. The nursery room is now my home office, and while that change still hurts, it's also oddly fitting. It's a reminder that sometimes our plans fall apart so better ones can take their place. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in years, I feel like I'm actually in control of it.